Imagine a boxer with Golovkin's jab and Klitschko's cross, or the guard of Winky Wright and the combinations of Manny Pacquiao. Today with your votes, Dan Morley and Boxing Life, we are going to build the technically perfect boxer, the ultimate Skillr Boxer. We have 12 areas that encompass the most fundamental skills of a boxer. We'll see the results of your votes from part 1 and combine them with our experts' take to see the best boxer in each area. And by the end, we will see how our perfect boxer would look in a fight. Let's start with hand speed. These are the results. We have Roy Jones and Ray Leonard in first and second place with a huge margin, and then Gary Russell Jr. in third. However, before closing the positions, let's see the vote of Dan and Boxing Life, who both have the same boxer.
For fastest hands, I've picked Sugar Ray Leonard.
The way Sugar Ray Leonard put combination punches together with so much snap and power was absolutely out of this world.
Although maybe not the fastest of all time, he could unleash rapid fire combinations that were sharp, accurate and deliberate.
Leonard was one of the most underrated finishers in the sport too, to go along with his speedy style.
What made Leonard special wasn't just how fast he could throw, it was how he put the punches together while adjusting to make openings when throwing at such speed. And one knockout that comes to mind because of this was against Andy Price, which gave him no time to react or to defend to.
And the reason he would be my number 1 pick over the likes of Pacquiao and Roy Jones Jr. and fighters of that ilk is because he done it over the 15-round era, deep into 15-round fights against the greatest fighters we've seen. Prime scenarios would be the razor-sharp finish of Wilfred Benitez in round 15, or the endless combination punches he threw against Tommy Hearns in their first fight in rounds 13 and 14 to secure a come-from-behind victory.
With these 2 votes, our perfect fighter will have Ray Leonard's speed. Now, let's continue with the best body shots. And these are the results. There is a really close competition at the top 3, with Canelo, Duran and Chavez. Let's see if our list changes with the expert picks.
For body shots, I have to go with Mike McCallum, who's probably one of the most technical fighters I've ever seen. And there's good reason why they called him the body snatcher. He'd bait you out with his own jab before slipping and digging his hooks into your body, as he'd look to slowly break you down over the course of the rounds. Naturally over time, would drop the opponent's guard to create openings up top.
He's not giving angles at all. He's directly in front of Dom. And there is a left hand!
What set him apart for me was how consistent and accurate he was to the body. Even though he didn't get so many knockouts with it, it was just his ability to land that left hook to the liver or the sneaky uppercut with the right hand to the solar plexus made it the perfect textbook fighter to watch for body shots. And he simply knew snatching away that body would result in openings for the head to follow.
With Boxing Life's vote, McCullum moves into the top 3 over Chavez. But let's see who Dan Morley picked.
For body punching, I would go with Julio Cesar Chavez. There's never been a more consistent body puncher in the sport as far as I've seen.
Chavez, of course, 3 weight classes.
Low blow, 2 good sportsmen.
Chavez would always close the distance, keeping his opponents tense and wearing them out with pressure. Body shots were a key component to his success and usually whipped into the liver or the solar plexus, always being set up with shots elsewhere.
This way, Chavez moves back into the top 3 and the initial results remain the same with Canelo as the number 1 pick. We'll see at the end of the video how our perfect boxer would look with Canelo's body shots. Best footwork. Here we have a really clear difference. But again, let's see who Boxing Life picked.
For footwork, I have to go with Roman Gonzalez. His footwork is maybe one of the most underrated elements of his greatness. He had the perfectly balanced stance to apply pressure continually throughout the fight. He was always in the perfect position, always inching forward while being able to cut angles when he got on the inside, while he would never smother his own offense.
But watching him being accurate like this is truly amazing.
And what is it about the movement?
Let him go, let him go.
Roman Gonzalez is going to work on Brian.
And if he was in danger, he would just take a quick shuffle back, as he had the ability to quickly shift and pivot before going on to apply pressure again. During his prime, he made it subtle and efficient at all times. People get caught up in Ali's gliding footwork too often, when in fact Chocolatito probably had the perfect fundamental footwork any fighter should want.
Roman Gonzalez would move up a position, but we have to see Dan's pick before closing the ranking.
The fighter with the best footwork that I've ever seen is Vasily Lomachenko. Loma boxed at such a high level, battling elite level opposition with his feet. The angles he was able to create from his pivots worked so well both aggressively and defensively, creating new angles to land shots and to escape his opponent's shots. The sudden unpredictable nature of his angles were very reminiscent of that of Orlando Canizales, but I think Lomachenko's overall game was better than Canizales's.
This category had a clear winner, and our perfect boxer would have Lomachenko's footwork. Now one of the toughest categories, the best jab. These are the initial results. We have Larry Holmes as number 1 and Floyd and Hearns really close together at the number 2 and 3 spot. But as we know, we cannot close it yet. Let's hear Boxing Life's pick first.
For the jab, it has to be Floyd Mayweather Jr. This punch alone set the pace, the rhythm, and the terms of the fight.
Look at that jab. He was the first American, by the way, to defeat a Cuban fighter in 20 years at the Olympics.
Said in this fight, I have everything to win and nothing to lose.
Whether it was a probe to measure range, a stiff jab to the body to drop your guard, or a blindy jab to set up his right hand, Mayweather had every version in his book. It may have not been the most powerful punch, but it was definitely respectable. But the way he used it to manage distance, read reactions, and keep his opponents thinking with it makes it one of the greatest jabs I've ever seen. Not just because it was a good punch, but because he could use it in every way possible.
With his vote, Floyd moves to the number 1 spot over Larry Holmes. But before closing, let's see who Dan picked.
The best jab in my opinion would go to Larry Holmes. Larry Holmes was able to use a ferocious sharp jab whilst he was on the move, and was able to throw it with that same snap every time across the duration of 15-round fights. So much so that he at times dropped his opposition with it. The idea of the jab is to be a straight penetrating punch that can get you in and out of range and set your shots up, and no one mastered this better than Larry Holmes. It should have no fat on it and should come straight back, and Larry was the best I've ever seen at doing this.
And with that, Holmes goes back into his initial spot, and the results remain the same as at the start, so our perfect boxer will have Holmes' snapping jab. Best cross. The initial results set Thomas Hearns at the top of the list. He is followed by Wilder and Joe Louis as second and third. This time, let's hear Dan's pick first.
The fighter with the best cross, in my opinion, is Joe Louis. Louis wasn't a big heavyweight, even for his time, yet is still revered by the Ring magazine as the hardest pound-for-pound puncher to ever live, and that is due to his perfect punch technique. There are so many instances in his career where the right hand finished the job. His footwork was excellent and he was never off balance, and he threw the shot incredibly straight. Any curve on a straight cross will slow the delivery down and can take a little bit of power out, but Louis always let it go clinically and with venom. All you have to do is look at his one-round massacre of Max Schmeling in the rematch, or the countless times where he toppled contenders and even had fighters doing 360 spins from the shot.
Joe would move now to the number 2 spot, right after Hearns. Let's see Jamie's pick to see the final ranking.
For the cross, it has to be my favourite fighter, Alexis Arguello. This has to be one of the most dangerous punches we've ever seen in boxing. It was absolute textbook technique, turning the hips and snapping the shot through the target, often with surgical precision.
Less than 30 seconds to go.
You just need to see his knockout over Kevin Rooney to see this in perfection.
Oh, big right hand. And down goes Rooney.
I don't think I've ever seen a punch with that speed and crushing power behind it. Not to mention it could land clean over the jab or through the middle of the guard due to the force he threw it at.
This way, the number 1 pick stays for Tommy Hearns. Now, let's look at the results of best head movement. With our initial results, we have Whittaker at 1, Lockett at 2, and Alvarez at 3. But let's see who Boxing Live picked first.
For head movement, it's Joe Frazier. It was simply relentless and non-stop, and it was a signature part of his swarming style, as he'd use that classic bob and weave technique to get low and slip shots, and quite often close the range without taking too much damage. But it wasn't just a part of his defense, it was also part of his offense when he'd get into range, as once inside, he'd use the movement of his upper body and head movement before exploding with hooks to the body and head. You just need to see this in action against the likes of Muhammad Ali or Bob Foster, which shows good head movement can work 2 and 2 together.
This way, Frazier moves up a position, but we still have to see Dan's pick for best head movement.
The fighter that I think had the best head movement of all time was Pernell Whittaker. I think you could give a shout out to Nicolino Loche, but Whittaker did it at a much higher level, much more consistently. The very fact that Sweep he did it so consistently against the greatest fighters of all time, while seemingly off balance, makes him stand out to me. And he was so good at moving his head that he would sometimes escape from his opponent's pressure and purposely put himself back on the ropes just to make himself escape again. The primest example of this is his rematch against Jose Luis Ramirez, a southpaw with over 80 career knockouts.
This way, Whittaker stays at the top, and our perfect boxer at the end will have Sweet Pea's head movement. Now onto the best counterpunches. These are the initial results. With Floyd, Crawford and Tony at the top. We have to first hear Jamie's pick.
In terms of counterpunchers, I have to go for the great Salvador Sanchez, who had the incredible ability to stay patient and make you pay at a moment's instance. Often standing toe-to-toe with his opponent, as he would use things like level changes, waist and head movement, before out of nowhere a razor-sharp counter would land. For me, he had a sixth sense of when these openings were coming, and the fact he looked so comfortable doing this at a close range says it all for me. If you were an aggressive fighter coming towards Salvador Sanchez, there was simply no escaping his counterpunches, and in my opinion is the greatest and most fluid counterpuncher I've ever seen.
So Sanchez would move over Robinson to the 4th position, but we still have to hear Dan's pick.
The best counterpuncher would be Ezzard Charles. The Cincinnati Cobra perfectly timed so many elite level fighters as they threw their own punches. Many of Charles' greatest career victories weren't on camera, but to beat the likes of Charlie Burley and Archie Moore, you're going to have to hit them as they punched, as both men are amongst the craftiest and slickest fighters to ever live. But of the footage we do have of Charles, you can see he timed opponents so perfectly. So many of the knockouts we have of Charles on tape come from excellently timed and clinical counterpunches.
Even with this pick, the top 3 remain the same, and our perfect boxer will have Floyd's counterpunching. Best hooks. There are 3 clear outliers in this category. Tyson at number 1, Jones at 2, and Frazier at 3. But let's see Dan's pick first, and see if the list changes.
The best hooker of all time has to go to Joe Frazier. His left hook is one of the most iconic punches in history and was one of the few punches to topple the great Muhammad Ali. Now Ali did famously rise from that punch, but there were so many other heavyweights from the 60s and 70s that fell victim to Frazier's left hook. It was thrown with so much torque and force up close that when it was let go and landed on both the chin and the body of his opposition, it wreaked complete havoc. Just look at the way both Jimmy Ellis and Bob Foster melted to the canvas once the left hook landed on their chin. Frazier mixed it with his bob and weave defense and aggression, meaning he usually caught opponents with that shot once they had thrown their own shot, left themselves open, and twisted his entire body weight through because he'd slipped onto the lead foot. All of these things combined maximised the devastating impact.
Now Frazier is at number 2 and Tyson at number 1. But we have to see Jamie's pick before settling it.
For hooks, I have to go with undisputed heavyweight champion Alexander Usyk. It might not be the first people think of as great hooks, but if you look closer within his style, it plays an incredibly important part. I think he's one of the best I've ever seen at using it from angles, mid-exit, or even off the back foot. As he has the ability to throw it within combinations, single shots, or even as a finishing power punch. And it's been a great tool for him up against the bigger men in the heavyweight division, often catching them completely off guard due to the looping trajectory he throws it in, not to mention the precision and timing he's able to land these in. Joshua, Fury, Dubois all suffered because of this punch.
With that, Usyk moves up a position, but our number 1 spot remains the same, and our perfect fighter, as we will see, will have Tyson's hooks. Now let's see the best uppercuts. Our initial result has Tyson with a large margin, followed by 2 completely different styles of uppercuts in Foreman and Lopez. In this case, both Dan and Boxing Life had the same pick. Let's see who it was.
For uppercuts, I'd have to go with Mike Tyson. Tyson had a natural advantage against his opponents in regards to uppercuts due to his small size, low centre of gravity and ball-like physique.
I can't think of anyone better than Mike Tyson's uppercut, which was an absolute wrecking ball when launched underneath his opponent.
Tyson would load the weight on his legs and explode with brutal speed, driving the uppercut through to the chin or the nose. It packed so much power because the delivery was perfect, it was thrown with excellent speed, but most importantly, he put so much weight on the leg he threw it off.
Not to mention the way he would set it up with both hands, while pairing it with his movement. Whether going into a southpaw stance or changing angle, opponents just didn't see it coming.
Having a more compact delivery and less distance for the shot to travel meant that when it landed, it was absolutely packed with power and the opponents wouldn't see it coming.
And it's no wonder he got so many knockdowns and knockouts with this alone.
The right hook to the body, his trademark punch before he usually threw this shot, both hurt the opponent but also blinded them from the shot, creating the opening.
Our perfect boxer will have both Tyson's hooks and uppercuts. But let's see whose guard it will have. These were the really close results. Number 1 and 2 really close, with Winky Wright followed by Triple G, then Marvin Hagler in 3rd position. Let's start with Boxing Life's pick.
For a solid guard, I have to go with James Toney. The way he mastered the Philly shell, rolling, catching punches with such calm composure is something that has hardly been duplicated ever since. But what set him apart was how he stayed in the pocket and made world-class fighters miss by an inch before firing back with his sharp counters. And that's what makes a solid guard, as his defensive posture didn't just protect him, it allowed him to bait punches and turn defense into instant offense. I've never seen someone look so cool, calm and completely untouchable at times like James Toney.
Toney would move 1 position over Hagler into the top 3, but we still need to hear Dan's pick.
For a solid guard, that would have to go to Winky Wright. Winky Wright was a tall southpaw whose guard you just couldn't penetrate. The fact that he was able to also ride shots off and maintain forward pressure whilst boxing from this guard made him such a difficult opponent to face and one of the most avoided fighters of his era. Whilst the guard was solid and difficult to penetrate, he was also relaxed, which means he could catch and counter from here. Wright was undeniably one of the most difficult fighters to face of the modern era, and it's very rare that you find a fighter as slippery from the southpaw stance with such a good high guard.
This way, it's clear our perfect boxer will have the solid guard of Winky Wright. best combinations. These are the results of your votes. We have Pacquiao at number 1, Bivol at 2, and Ray Robinson at 3. Let's see who Dan picked first.
There are so many combination punches you can pick, but if I had to pick one as a standout, I would go with Roman Gonzalez. Chocolatito was effortless at throwing his combination punches. And the reason I would pick him is because he could throw it at any range, at distance or up close, and still not get hit back. For someone so small, his combination punches packed so much power because his balance was immaculate and he was always in a constant flow. The way he would ride shots off his shoulders to maintain position up close and still throw counter punches within the combination was simply sublime. And his combination punching ability was very reminiscent of his idol Alexis Arguello.
This way, Chocolatito would move up a position, but we still have to see Jamie's pick and see if it changes the results.
For combination punching, I just have to go with Manny Pacquiao. As a southpaw with blinding hand speed, he didn't just throw 2 or 3 punches, he would land 6 or 7 punch flurries from unpredictable angles. And they weren't wild either, they'd be timed accurately and were designed to overwhelm opponents. I love how you had that ability to dart in and out of range quickly, letting quick burst combinations go before moving out to the outside angle. There's nothing quite like seeing Manny Pacquiao throw that 1-2-1 combination out of nowhere, which continually caught his opponents off guard through the years.
The top 3 would remain the same, with Pacquiao at the top. And the last category to complete our perfect boxer will be power. These were the results. Foreman is up with a huge margin, followed by Jackson and Shavers, who have less than a 0.1% difference. Now let's see Jamie's pick first.
For power, I've picked Joe Louis, and he's a fighter that had one of the best fundamental textbook styles, but the power behind it was really terrifying. Every punch he threw was a masterclass in his body mechanics, clean, short, and devastating. He wouldn't swing wild or load up. Instead, he delivered punches with perfect timing, weight transfer, and balance. And that's what made him so special to me. It wasn't so much the brute force behind it, but the efficiency he was able to use with the power. Not to mention, most of the time, it looked like simple shots, but would leave his opponent scrambled on the floor. It's no surprise he got 23 knockouts in the 27 consecutive championship bouts that he had, a record for heavyweight boxing.
Lewis would move up a position, but we have to see Dan's pick first to complete the whole list.
For power, I would have to go with Julian Jackson on a pound-for-pound basis. Jackson was one of the most ferocious punchers in history and quite literally had the touch of death at any point in the fight.
Oh, there's a right hand. He won't get up from this one, I don't think.
His power was on full display against top-level fighters, including the likes of Terry Norris, who he brutalised against the ropes, and of course, that vicious come-from-behind knockout over Harold Graham, one of the most brutal knockouts in history. The reason I chose Jackson is because he had equal power in both hands and threw with such brilliant timing. His knockout to win ratio is frighteningly high, and his knockout reel is one of the scariest you'll ever wish to see, quite literally knocking opponents stiff.
So there we have it. Jackson moves up a position, securing the number 1 spot. Now that we have the top boxer in each area, let's break down how that technically perfect boxer would look like. The Skillr Boxer. Starting from the base, our perfect boxer is always balanced. He can move freely around the ring, circling his opponent, and has the ability to create angles by shuffling around his opponent. He is always 2 steps ahead of the opposition. He controls the fight with a snapping jab, constantly peppering his opponents from the outside. Once he establishes the jab, he can throw a long and technically perfect cross, right on target. But defensively, he is untouchable too. He moves his head from unbelievable angles, always escaping his opponent's attacks. His unorthodox head movement frustrates all his opponents. At the same time he makes his opponent miss, he also calculates a perfect counter. He is sharp and accurate with his counters, and can perfectly bait his opponents into overextending. But he can also operate at close range. By keeping his solid guard up, he walks down opponents and remains safe in close quarters. Once there, he unleashes short and powerful looping shots. Every shot is thrown with his whole body weight and with mean intentions. He doesn't neglect the body and will constantly target it. He will set up beautiful liver shots, breaking his opponents little by little. At the same time, he will mix it up, head and body, and with relentless pace. His combinations seem endless, not letting the opponents have any breathing room. All of these attacks are made with lightning speed, punching much faster than the eye can process, and all of it while carrying the ultimate one-punch knockout power. But now, we would love to know your opinion in the comments. Do you have a different perfect boxer? And would that boxer beat ours? Let us know. And if the video was interesting, you can find more on our channel. And to your left, we have chosen a video that we thought you may like.